More than 80 growers whose crops have been severely affected by frost have turned out to meet Shadow Agriculture Minister Carol Marple. Ms Marple has agreed to pressure both the state and federal governments to ensure assistance is obtained. Growers still suffering the shock of losing a potentially bumper crop turned out in the hope of learning what assistance may be available. The meeting was held at the property of Cardross grower Wayne Haseman, who, like his neighbours, has lost most of his crop.
I don't see some of them getting out of it, but they had a bad 2 or 3 crops leading up to this year. Most of them were counting on this crop to get them through, and now and this on top of that, I don't think some of them will survive.
The Shadow Minister called on the Victorian Government to answer the call for assistance, but ADFA General Manager Ian Thorne told Ms Marple the federal Labor government will play the major role in determining assistance.
If it doesn't sanction relief, there won't be any.
Well, I certainly will give support and speak to Bob Collins about what I've seen here today. But I think it's more important that the state government acts on their own behalf as well. After all, they are in charge of the budget for the state and they are able to give support through the state.
Growers expressed a need for short-term relief as well as assistance with subsidised loans. Mr Haseman says many growers borrow money against their crop or ask packers to tide them over, as they must spend money to maintain the vines. Growers inquired about assistance with water rates and even about social security benefits.
Even to put bread and butter on the tables, they'll need assistance for that.
Agriculture Minister Bill McGrath will meet growers on Sunday. The Mildura Working Man's Club has completed stage 2 of its $2.5 million refurbishment program. The gaming room, which was officially opened today, has proven a crucial asset to the establishment, helping the club survive trying times. Danny Vucenovic explains.
The changing face of clubs across the state forced the Mildura Working Man's Club to consider new alternatives to help boost business.
In the past, of course, when we didn't have gaming machines, we weren't in the situation we're in now, and it's obviously gaming machines over the last 3 years that have increased our revenue and our turnover and our profit margins.
Today, the official opening of the new look gaming room was welcomed by hundreds of members and visitors keen to have a flutter on one of the 60 machines. Dubbed the Golden Chance, the second stage of renovations was officially opened by former Hawthorn footballer Robert Dippier Domenico. Affectionately known as Dipper, the larrikin kept the crowd entertained with giveaways and competitions.
All you want is a ping pong ball there.
Manager Ron Brown says he expects another 10 machines will be installed within the next month. He says the refurbishment program, which commenced in March this year, was desperately needed.
The club this year was 100 years old, and I think this was started being built about 1908, and unfortunately became very old, very tired, and badly in need of a facelift.
Mr Brown says the main bar area will be completed by November. He says works on the final stage, which focuses on the reception area, will commence in May next year. Danny Vucenovic, Win News.
And Bill Saw joins us now with sport.
Thank you, Kim. Coming up after the break, Saints go through to the baseball grand final and highlights from Phantom's volleyball victory.
Holden makes the only Australian car to provide the protection of an airbag for both the driver and front seat passenger. That's why there's nothing quite like a Holden.
Good evening. Phantoms has secured its 3rd consecutive grand final win after a close encounter with Walkers in the Sunraysia volleyball competition. But as April Downs reports, in the women's division, Phantoms wasn't as successful, losing to Bandars by a single point.
Phantom's last encounter with Walkers in the second semi-final saw a close game. However, Walkers have again been defeated. Phantom stole the first set in the grand final, while the action seesawed through the game until the 5th and deciding set. Phantom's captain Alan Hassel says a hard contest was expected before going onto the court.
The Walkers team, strong attacking team, and we knew from our second semi-final that we'd have to pick up our defence quite a bit, and we managed to do that, but they still pushed us right to the wire.
Alan says the Phantom's success is a result of dominant positions being filled with younger players and team determination. However, in the women's final, Phantoms didn't do so well, coming off second best to Bandars. Bandars captain says it was a pleasing victory after losing previous games to the side this season.
So we felt that perhaps not being the underdogs, but we thought we'd give them a run for our money and work really hard to try and beat them at least once that year.
Achieving that, Bandos says it won the first set easily. However, losing a strong player during the second gave Phantoms an opening. Bandos again picked up in the third. Phantoms not far behind, winning the following set, leaving the fifth to decide the game. Bandos won the game 15-13. April Downs, Win News.
Saints will meet Wanderers in the grand final of the Sunraysia Baseball League competition after defeating Tigers in the preliminary final. As Danny Vucenovic reports, it was a tight match, with the Saints finishing in front by just 1 run.
Saints went into the match confident of a win, with Melville Lyons back from suspension and Neil Bennett returning from injury. But it was Tigers who took the lead early, with Simon Nichols taking 4 walks and 2 runs. It wasn't long before Saints got off the ground, and by the 7th innings it seemed the side had the game wrapped up, leading 13 runs to 6. But Tigers were determined not to give in.
We made it tight for ourselves in the end. We started off all fired up, and 2 innings to go, we 7 runs up. Unfortunately blew 6 of them, but we end up getting home in the end, which counts.
Tigers were 1 run short of victory and ended up losing the game 13 runs to 12. Saints now play Wanderers in the grand final. Wanderers finished on top of the league ladder, only ahead of Saints by percentage. Ross anticipates a difficult game, with Wanderers winning 3 out of their 4 clashes during the season. But he says Saints are prepared for the challenge and will have a full team free from injury.
Always a tough game from Wanderers, but we've probably fielded our best side we have all year. We've had Glenn Wallace out most of the year through Victorian duties, and Neil Bennett coming back from injury. We've got Melville back after suspension, so we'll have a good team this week.
The match at the Aero Oval starts at 2 o'clock on Sunday. Danny Vucenovic, Win News.
That's all in sport.
Thanks for that, Bill. Danny Vucenovic is next with the weather, and an historic collection hits the right note.
Now is the time to apply for 1996 full-time TAFE courses. Applications from Year 12 school leavers and mature age persons close Friday the 29th of September. Collect your free application form today.
Good evening. Well, a moderate northerly wind helped produce warm temperatures today, with maximums 5 to 8 degrees above average. Last night down to 7 degrees at Swan Hill, 8 at Oyun, and 9.4 was the overnight low for Mildura, recorded just after 3:30 this morning. Today, Swan Hill and Oyun shared a very warm 27 degrees, while Mildura had the state's highest, exactly 28.2, recorded at 17 minutes to 4 this afternoon. Over to the radar, and no surprise, all's clear in the area surrounding Mildura. The River Heights and Walkall Junction is now down by 42 centimetres to 7 metres 88. There's been a 21 centimetre drop at Boundary Bend. Levels at Euston have fallen by 12 centimetres, and only a 2 centimetre reduction at Mildura, the river now just over 7 metres high. Tonight, conditions expected to remain fine. It'll be a warm one at 13 degrees, and the sun setting this evening at 22 past 6. Tomorrow should be fine and sunny, a top of 23 degrees, and a moderate fresh northerly wind will shift and ease to a south to southwesterly wind. And for the early birds, the sun will rise just after 6:30 in the morning. Over to the outlook, and the Bureau says Friday will be mainly fine and mild, a top of about 25 degrees. The temperatures warming up for the weekend. Saturday and Sunday will also be fine and mild, averaging about 26 degrees. Currently outside, the temperature is still at 25.1 degrees. The barometer shows 1,016 and falling. Relative humidity at 17% and a dew point reading of -1. And tonight's junior weather forecaster is Bree Rayner of Redcliffs East Primary School. So briefly, it looks like we'll experience some great weather for the next couple of days. Temperatures in the low to mid-20s, and those conditions should see us through to the start of another working week, Kim.
Thanks for that, Danny. And finally tonight, owning a piano doesn't necessarily mean you need to know how to play it. Music lovers for centuries have been sitting around pianolas as an easy alternative to learning how to play. Local man Michael Waters' hobby of restoring these giant-sized music boxes has developed into an historic collection. This piano player dates back to 1906, which was introduced prior to the likes of pianolas and reproducing pianos. Mr. Waters has also rebuilt a Marshall and Wendell, which could fetch in the vicinity of $10,000. And that's how we saw the news throughout the region today. National news is next from all of us here. Good night.